Well, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal Turner. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner who has gone holistic because I know to be whole is to be healed. And I really want to talk about this subject today because it has been one of the defining things in my life. And that's something that I still continue to grow through, but it is how to bounce back from really anything. And the 5 areas that I'm going to talk about this in to be able to help you with your bounce back is something you can apply to any area of your life where you're feeling like you're defeated, where you're feeling like you don't want to try anymore, where you're feeling overused or washed up, or where all of your energy has been taken, if that's how you feel, where you feel like you just don't want to try anymore, or you don't have the answer on how to try, or how to be able to get back what some people say their mojo, to get back after maybe you've even felt like you messed up in something and you just feel like you want to stop and you don't have anything in you, that it's all been taken from you. I want you to really listen to this video and think about these 5 areas of life where you can put some attention and energy in so that you can bounce back and be in a place of desire or joy, and in that space that you really desire to be in, thriving in a space and not feeling like all of the water that you had in your cup is gone, that you can feel like it's overflowing again, and you can give from a place of balance if you're choosing to give, but giving to yourself first. So let's get into it. So number 1, I know you know about stress, especially if you live in these United States of America, because in this country, stress, which leads to anxiety for many people, is the number 1 cause of mental health issues. And everyone knows stress. Everyone has experienced stress on some level, and many of us have it in our life, and we don't want it at the level that we're experiencing it. So I'm going to tell you about stress in 2 ways. So first, when we talk about stress, it is the stress that we're enduring every day. How much we're taking on in our life. Are we taking on too much? Do we want to help so much and too much without giving to ourselves first? Stress is this thing that can really break down our whole body on a cellular level, on a physical level, on a mental level. This amazing thing about our body is that based on our emotions, our body creates its own chemicals. And these chemicals are all necessary for something. But some of these chemicals, when they're released too much, they are going to be detrimental. They're going to hurt us. So when it comes to stress, there is a chemical that we produce called cortisol. And cortisol is important if we're really dealing with a short-term stressor or need to address something urgent. It could be useful. I always think about if we're in the face of danger, something happens in that moment, we're in the face of danger, we utilize cortisol. Cortisol releases in our body and it gives us more strength in that moment. It gives us more agility. It gives us more laser focused to handle that situation in the moment. But when we have stress every single day after day after day, and this doesn't have to be stress where you're being attacked in a physical way, it can be having emotional stress. Our body doesn't know the difference. It's going to release that chemical. And so when we are releasing chemical cortisol every day because we're dealing with stress every day, it ends up dealing with our health in ways that break it down. When we have high levels of cortisol in our body on a long-term basis, it causes us to have a weakened immune system, which hurts our gut. It allows us to be more susceptible to infections. It causes us to be more susceptible to inflammation. And let's talk about that for a minute. When our gut health is poor, I've mentioned this before, that it hurts our brain health as well. It's how we feel bad emotions. It's where we get to dealing with anxiety and depression. When our gut health is poor and when our brain health is poor. When our gut health is poor, that communication with the brain gets impacted. And when we have inflammation, that also happens in our brain. Our mental health gets impacted. So this chemical cortisol really does impact our mental health, it impacts our physical health, more increased risk for high blood pressure, people who deal with diabetes or are more susceptible to diabetes when we're dealing with chronic stress because of this cortisol hormone that is largely at play. And so when we talk about bouncing back, if we have these levels of stress that are causing all these chemicals to respond in this way in our body, it is going to be challenging to bounce back. So it is important to be mindful of how much we put on our plate, how we detach from stress, and how we put our focus on things. So this is the other part of stress. What are we stressing over? Meaning, where are we going to put our focus? If we know anything, or I will say, when it comes to really thinking about the idea of what we put our focus on grows, where we put our energy grows. If we're focusing on the thing that stresses us, we tend to pay more attention to what stresses us, which means we end up experiencing it more. We end up feeling that more. And once we are thinking about something and feeling something based on that, those two dynamics are what really cause us to create situations in our life. So when we're stressing on something, can we do this thing where we take our mind off of the thing that's stressing us, which is what we don't want, and to put our mind on what it is that we will want instead of what that thing is that is happening in our life that's stressing us. So putting your mind on what you want and asking the questions on, how do I get more of this in my life? How do I bring this thing that I want about in my life? Putting the focus on what it is that you really want and taking your mind off the stress can relieve some stress. Because when you push your mind on what you want, we also create chemicals in our body. The things that we desire, the things that we love, the things that make us feel, joy in our heart, helps us to create things like oxytocin, which is all about connection and love, and these chemicals that are more positive, with the serotonin, which is a chemical that helps us to be more happy in our mood. We want to think about the fact that we have the ability, through what we focus on, the emotion that we have, to create a chemical in our body, one that could cause us to deteriorate and make it hard to bounce back, and one that could give us energy, that can give us, all the good feelings that we want to feel in this life, and that helps us bounce back. Number 2 would be our nutrition. We have to talk about nutrition because also what we're taking into our body at a cellular level is going to impact how we feel generally. So if we are not eating things that helps to give nourishment to our body, that helps to feed our cells, things that give it energy, then we're going to we're not even going to feel like doing anything to overcome. It's going to impact our physical ability to get up and go, to feel like we just can't go anymore. And it's going to make us feel exhausted in our mental space too, where that really takes us out. We don't feel like we have the energy to even have another conversation. We don't have this ability to have hope. We don't have this ability to see a brighter picture. We're just exhausted. And everything that we do in this body requires energy. So the foods that we eat and take in, it's important to think about foods that get their energy from the sun, because then we get that energy when we take it in. So thinking about food in that context, thinking about the foods that give us energy because they are nourished by the sun, we need the sun, and all of the nourishment that the sun gives those plants. When we eat it, we get that at a cellular level. The intelligence behind us and nature and all of that is so profound. And if we think about the things that don't have any of those nourishments, the things that are created that have all of these chemicals in it, when we eat those things, it causes our body inside to try to attack those foreign things that don't belong in our body, and that exhausts our system at a cellular level. So when we're exhausted at a cellular level, we start feeling things like feeling extremely tired, having more body ache, joints hurting, inability to focus, or having like cloudy thoughts, a clouded what is the word I'm trying, like brain fog, there we go. We end up dealing with issues like brain fog. When we have issues like brain fog, increased pain, low energy, these really are significant indicators that at an energetic level, we are depleted. So we want to think about our nutrition because we want to think about what are these foods giving me, these things I'm consuming, do they give me energy to be able to be in this day in the way that I would like to be in this day. Number 3 is going to be rest and sleep. Rest and sleep when we are not attending to ourselves enough to give ourselves these things, our body is not going to long-term function the way we want. So think about this. Think about a car. If a car just drove all day, every day, maybe you turned it off for an hour and then you turned it back on and drove it across the state, drove it 400 miles, took a road trip from Chicago to California, and you take maybe 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day to let the car rest. That car is going to be stressed. When we even think about that, we don't think about doing that to our cars. We know that we have to give them rest. We have to allow the car to have a moment to cool down. Let's think about our body in this way. Our body needs time to also cool down. When we sleep, it is the time that our body is restoring itself from all of the things of the day. It's where it's where we recharge. It's like our charge to our body is sleep. We don't plug it in. We don't plug it into an outlet like our phones. But when we sleep, our cells are able to, overturn and regenerate and get restored, so that when we wake up the next day, we feel rejuvenated when we're getting enough sleep. But how often do we end up getting 3-4 hours of sleep, maybe 5 hours of sleep? And when we wake up in the morning, we're exhausted. Our body hasn't had time to be able to restore itself. So we have to think about, or we can think about, we have the option of thinking about the ability to restore our body with sleep. And also rest throughout the course of the day. There's been times where when I have a planner, I'm filling out every hour of the day with something. And over time, I wonder why, I just felt done. I just felt done. Like I just don't have anything to give. It's something all the time. But I had to realize that I chose to create a schedule that made it where it was something all of the time. During the course of our day, we have our responsibilities. We have the things that we do and that we need to do. But we can also cut out 15 minutes, 20 minutes here or there to just sit, to close our computer, to put our phone away from us, to not have any distractions, to sit in quiet and just sit with yourself. If you take that time to just breathe, if you take that time to imagine playfully what it is that you want, if you take that time to meditate, if you take that time to just drink a nice glass of water and sit with how good it feels to get that in. We have the opportunities during the day to take moments of a break where we're just going to be, instead of being at a place where we're frequently doing. Giving our body that throughout the course of our day. These things give our body time to, be replenished. At sleep, it's a longer period of time, but even in those moments of rest, it can give us our mind just a moment. Give our mind, when we give this body what it needs, it will perform for us in magical ways, because we are allowing ourselves to honor it enough to say it needs, it needs to be cared for too. We're not just out here doing all the things to make all the things happen and care for all of the goals. We have to care for the vehicle. I keep saying we have to, and I want to be mindful because we don't have to do anything. That is the point of this. It is a conscious choice to say, I'm going to slow down so I can give my body something that could help it to, in the long term, give me more of what I would desire. And then number 4, because I have my notes, is our exercise, or I'm gonna really say movement. Let's talk about movement. Giving our body the opportunity to move and get out and, stand up. How many of you work where you sit a lot? Sitting all day, it kind of creates this lifestyle that's called the sedentary lifestyle, where we don't get exercise. And so much research shows that people who live very sedentary lifestyles are more prone to increased disease, blood pressure issues, all of these things, issues with diabetes, because we're not moving this body. And movement doesn't have to be going and doing a HIIT program. Doesn't have to be that, but those are great too, but it doesn't have to be that, because one of the best exercises that I've seen is walking or brisk walking, getting movement like that, giving yourself 10 minutes, even just to start to get out and walk, breathe in fresh air, be in a different environment, be able to pay attention to the nature that is around you when you're outside, pay attention to people walking, animals outside, just giving yourself a different environment and being present with it. So movement is so important. Movement can also be yoga, where you allow your body to stretch. Sometimes we're so stiff and we don't feel like getting up and doing anything because we're so stiff. But things like yoga can help tone us, but it definitely helps with stretching so that we can feel more flexible in our body. We can have more energy from these things. When we exercise also, we increase more of those chemicals in our brain that help us to feel more energized. When I do an exercise routine, after I've done the exercise routine, I tend to be more energetic afterwards. That's why for many it's thought to not do exercise right before bed, because often when you do that, it gives you a jolt of more energy and it's hard to relax. So just think though about that. If we do the exercise earlier in the day or get the movement early in the day, it can give us energy to face the day. We can also feel more accomplished when we get that movement or that exercise in the early part of the day, because we can also feel, okay, I did this thing that sometimes I put off, I did it first, and now it makes me feel more accomplished, like, okay, now what's next? I've done this, I'm feeling good about myself, I'm feeling proud that I did this workout. It makes you feel more like you can do the next thing. So it helps us to not be in that space of giving up and just washing our hands of life. It can help us to feel more energy, to be able to face life more. And last is our connection. So what are we connecting to? There's so much I could say about connection, but let's first just think about, who are you connected to? There is research that shows that the people that you are around the most, you tend to take on the same types of behaviors and patterns and habits of those people over time. So if you're around people that you don't really feel like you vibe with, but you put yourself in those spaces often, I would question why you don't vibe with them. What is it about these people that you don't vibe with? And just recognize that if you continue to put yourself in that space, you start being in that vibe that you don't even like, and what does that do to you? If it's someone who has low vibes, let's say, and you want to be in the high vibes, but you decide to be around these people with low vibes, over time, your vibes die down too. You get discouraged, or if there's someone who's hating on you, who's always criticizing your ambition, and you stay around that, you're going to start, first of all, you're not going to want to talk about your ambitions around them. And I really do believe that when we are ambitious, we want to be around people who feed that ambition, who encourage it. We want to give it to ourselves first, but understand energy is contagious. So if I don't care how strong you are, if you continually put yourself in a space with people who are low vibe, and you're not allowing yourself to have space with people who are on your vibratory level, you're going to get pulled down into that, because this is just what energy is. And what you focus on and put yourself in is where you're going to go. So thinking about who you have yourself around, Are they people who support you, and when you're around them, you feel open and it's easy to talk to them? It's easy to just be yourself, and they encourage that. When you're being in your positive best self, and they encourage that, as opposed to when you're around people who seem to, maybe they're intimidated. People's intimidation can come off in so many ways. They can give a front as if they think they're better than you. They can give a front as if you're not good enough, when they know deep down they're really intimidated. But if you don't know what's going on in their head, you're going along with their energy, you'll start feeling like you're not good enough, or maybe there's something wrong with your ambition. So being around the people that you connect with that help you to even see a bigger vision for yourself, and you also support them and giving them ability to see their vision. You bounce off each other. That's beautiful karma. Because if you're really around people that you really can speak life into, this world is going to give that back to you. But you have to first be willing to give it to yourself by saying, I'm going to put myself in spaces where people give me that, where I'm feeling that from them. And then even what you connect with in terms of all connections. What are you consuming? I love my mentors who don't know they're my mentors, because I tune into them, to their content. I love Ralph Smart, who has this amazing high energy, and his content is always about how to improve yourself. I love Dr. Bobby Price, and I really align with his work, being from a healthcare space and system that has given one view of this idea of health, and really going beyond that to really seek better health for people. It vibes with me so much, and so I stay connected to that to get insights and to be reminded that there are people who have the same vision as me, and they express it in their unique way, so I can express it in my unique way. So thinking about who you tune into is important too. Because there have been times where I'm tuning into music, let's say, that has nothing, it doesn't align with really what I even want for myself. I might just be listening to it because I'm used to this type of music in my environment, the vibe of the beat of the music, dancing, getting exercise to it, but, failing to think about the fact that that music is vibratorily speaking something. And it's important to think about what that is. So when we're at this point where we feel depleted, we want to think about what we're consuming and be honest about it. Sometimes a song that you like, write out the lyrics or pay attention to those lyrics. And when you listen to those lyrics, if they go against everything that you really want for yourself, it's time to really be honest about that. At the least, let's just be honest about it. You won't have to change it, but being honest could at least give us the answer to, okay, these things could be contributing to why I am feeling the way that I'm feeling, why it's hard for me to get up now and face life, why it's hard for me to stay focused on what I once upon a time wanted. Being able to utilize these things is all about our lifestyle. And really, this is all about the ability to give us resilience, for us to be able to bounce back from challenges in life. That's being resilient. And to be resilient, these 5 areas are places that I think most of us could give more attention to, and really study self to see how you start responding differently once you start giving more attention in these areas. So in the comments, let me know which of these areas are the hardest for you to really discipline yourself in. Which of these areas are the hardest for you? Put it in the comment section. And again, I will be back in my next video, always talking about how we can be whole so that we can really be healed. Thank you. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.